tell you a brief story about the courage to ask, because that's really what took us, two undergraduate business majors going into investment banking and consulting, and turned us into full-time urban mushroom farmers after we graduated. And I guess it all really started off early 2009 during our last semester at UC Berkeley when Alex and I were sitting in a business ethics class. And we didn't know each other at the time, but we both heard our professor bring up, looking back now, a pretty random fact that you can grow gourmet mushrooms entirely on recycled coffee grounds. And I think something about that idea, one, this country is drinking coffee day in and day out, and two, that you could turn waste into wages through local, fresh, sustainable food, got us kind of both more curious. And we decided separately to ask one more question, both to our professor, just asking, hey, do you have any more information? And he emails us both back separately. I have no idea, but this other kid asked me about it too. You guys should link up. And that's really how we met. It was last year in spring of '09, and we met up and just started researching it a bit more, and actually ended up kind of tying that fact back to Paul Stamets, who I'm sure many of you have heard of. He's an awesome TED speaker in the past, whose video on how mushrooms can save the world is fascinating if you haven't watched it. But he actually ended up then donating some of our first mushroom spawn or seed to us to kind of get things started. And we got that maybe a week or two before spring break last year, and kind of looked at each other and said, what the heck, let's give it a shot. And so we walked around to all the local cafes around our school, just literally lugging back bags of coffee to Alex's fraternity, and we planted 10 test buckets, literally just kind of paint buckets mixed with this coffee grounds and the mushroom spawn that Paul had sent us, and left for spring break. Still not really thinking much of it, not knowing where it was going to take us. And then we come back from spring break, and it's probably one of the most memorable moments, I think, sticks with us still, because we walked back into Alex's fraternity, opened that closet door, we had these 10 buckets, and out of those 10, 9 of them are just completely contaminated. But one of them just has this gorgeous bunch of pearl oyster mushrooms growing off the top of it. And I think that's when we first really saw the potential for this idea. And out of pure excitement, we took that bucket and ran it over to the best restaurant we knew in town, Chez Panisse, whose founder, Alice Waters, happened to be there. And she gets her head chef over to us, and he plucks some right off the top of the bucket, sautés them up in front of us, and he looks back, he's like, whoa, this is actually really good. And Alex and I, this big smile on our faces, having no food background, just thinking, hey, if he says they're good, they've got to be good. So even more excited, we then take that same bucket that same afternoon and take it over to the Berkeley Whole Foods, again, pretty close to our campus. And we go to the first person we see in the produce department, one of the guys just packing the vegetables, and we just go back up to that same paint bucket and say, these are all going to recycle coffee grounds, and kind of give this whole story. And he's like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Go talk to him about it. And then we tell someone else. He's like, go talk to him about it. And before we know, we probably talked to the whole store about how we're trying to grow mushrooms on coffee grounds. And a couple weeks later, we get an email, a kind of quick 1 or 2 liner from Randy DeCommon, who's the regional produce coordinator for Northern California Whole Foods. And he just says, hey, I heard about what you guys are doing. Give me a call, get a few minutes to chat. We give him a call and end up talking for like 45 minutes, and he just becomes super passionate about this whole idea of kind of, reusing our waste streams and things like that. And he says, if you guys figure this out, we will blow this up. And this is our last semester in college, and we're sitting here like, we got mushrooms that taste good. We got demand, Whole Foods, and all we need is supply. So we ended up going to Pete's Coffee, which from those of you from the West Coast is a chain, about 200 cafes, mainly in California. And they, too, became kind of really supportive and offered us their grounds from their local cafes. And we had the supply, the coffee grounds, good-tasting gourmet mushrooms, demand from Whole Foods. And I think we were fortunate enough at that point, a couple weeks before graduation, got a small grant for $5,000 from our chancellor for social innovation, and kind of looked at each other and said, you know what, we have got to do this. And that's really how we became full-time mushroom farmers last year after graduating from college.
Yeah, unlike true entrepreneurs, we did end up graduating from college. But we did give up our careers, too, and to become 100% full-time urban mushroom farmers. And it was really to answer one main question that was going in our heads, and that was, how do we take this mere idea, this concept of potentially growing mushrooms on coffee grounds, and turn it into an actual business, into something that's actually a real commercial urban mushroom farm? And that's basically what we try to answer the rest of our senior year of college and a few months after that. And as you see here, we built up some racks with those $5,000 we got from our chancellor. We got a small warehouse space in Oakland. It was really a 250 square foot office space, but turned into a mini mushroom farm. And then we just started researching on all these other mushroom cultivation books and Paul Stamets, and then we just watched a ton of YouTube videos. And finally, on October 9th, we actually had our first consistent crop of oyster mushrooms grown on coffee grounds. And that was sold to our local Berkeley Whole Foods store. It was 3.14 pounds, the invoice, and literally weighed in the meat department of their own store. And we went from that one store to, in about a month and a half, all 30 Whole Foods in NorCal and 20 other natural food stores and farmer markets. And actually around that same time, Randy, for the first time, came to our warehouse, and we gave him the grand tour of our place. And we were really working on simplifying the process. It was his first time seeing anything like it. And we said, Randy, the way this works is you put coffee grounds, you inoculate coffee grounds with mushroom seed, mushroom spawn, and you put it into a dark place for 3 weeks, and then a week and a half, the last week and a half is just adding humidity, and the mushrooms start sprouting. And as we started saying that, we realized how simple the process was already. And that's when we started asking a question. We said, how do we take this model and make it even more local? How do we make this that people can do that themselves at home? And that's when actually I think Nikhil, in that excitement, he turned to Randy and ran to one of the bags, which you see on the left here. And he said, hey, Randy, how about slapping a sticker on this one and putting it in your store? And as you can probably see, too, Randy started laughing and said, guys, that bag is hideous. There's no way I'm going to put this in my store. But I like the concept. He's like, how about you guys go back to your R&D team and come back to me with something better? And, of course, Nick and I, it was just us two at the time in our company, and we went back to the coffee shop that we were working out of, and we came up with the second iteration, which you see up there too, and it's what we call the Easy to Grow, Better Gourmet Garden. And we put it in that Berkeley store once again in the first week in March, and it was just a hit. It was just perfect for kids, families, for foodies, chefs, and just people that were into environmentalism. And it just grew so quickly. It grows in 10 days, 10 to 14 days, and our own company did the same. Our own kids, we went from that one store in early March to every single NorCal store in Northern California within 3.5 weeks. And we actually then got a call from Randy once again. He says, hey guys, can you give me 2 kits? So of course we sent them over to Randy, and we then get a call back from him that afternoon, and he says, I just want you to know that I dropped these 2 kits off with the global produce buyer of Whole Foods. He's like, let me know if you guys get a call back. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Joe Sandro, the global produce buyer of Whole Foods, gives us a call and says, guys, I grew this with my kid. I love it. I'm going to take you guys national. And that's exactly where we're at today. We went from that one store early March to 89 Whole Foods across 11 states and 3 regions within just a few months. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we realized, that this is not just about coffee. This is not just about mushrooms. This is the entire movement of growing your own and worrying about where your food comes from.
Yeah, I think there's really 3 things that get us so passionate about this new kind of facet of our business. And the first is that it's showing people that no matter your expertise, no matter your experience about growing your own food in the past, no matter the size of your house, the size of your backyard, that everyone can grow their own local, sustainable food easily. And we think that sense of empowerment is really important. And the second thing is kind of turning this whole idea of waste upside down and kind of trying to show people that nothing really is waste. It's just more kind of wasted resources. And by taking something so common in all of our lives, coffee grounds, adding some value to it, we can hopefully get people to start looking at all the other waste streams they encounter every single day and start thinking and asking those questions. What else can I do with those? But by far, the thing that gets us most passionate about the kits is kids and the energy and excitement that they bring back to us every single day, sending us photos of mushroom kits they have grown, or writing us notes about, hey, it was so cool, I grew my own mushrooms, then my whole family ate them for dinner, and that sense of enthusiasm, sense of energy that we get from kids just shows us how important that is for children and the youth and the youngest of our generation to start asking these questions early on. Hey, if I can grow these, why can't I grow other things? Or who else is growing those? where's everything else I'm eating coming from? And we just kind of believe that those are such important questions to try to get kids excited about and start thinking about it at a young age. And I think all that together is really what makes us so excited and kind of wakes us up every morning about trying to grow this part of our business now.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things is that as our business grows so fast, we ended up growing so many more mushrooms, so many more kits. We ourselves became inundated with waste because as we collected the coffee grounds, part of that was being used to grow the bulk mushrooms, so it would stay in our warehouse. And at first, what we did is let's put it in the back of our warehouse. The landlord wasn't too happy about that, but we're like, we'll figure something out. We'll figure there's some value add that byproduct can have. And sure enough, Nick put some seeds in there to see. He said, we're growing mushrooms on it. There has to be some type of fertilizer left for other plants. And a few days passed, and we went back to it and saw that the tomato had grown a little bit, the tomato plant. So we said, okay, let's test this against regular potting soil. And then we looked at the difference when we did the actual controlled test and saw that our soil, our premium soil amendment, was so much better. And it had grown so much faster. So what we did is we put it up on Craigslist, and within a few weeks, we had a 2.5-month wait list pickup of people of different schools and urban gardens that were picking it up. And you fast forward to today, we're actually selling that at 12 Whole Foods. We packaged up as a premium soil amendment, selling it at 12 Whole Foods in NorCal, and are going to be selling it at all 32 Whole Foods by the spring of 2011.
Yep. And I really think that story sums up what's been the theme for us for our last year and a half. And again, it's that courage to ask. Because it was that one question to our professor that took us from investment banking and consulting to full-time mushroom farming. It was that one question to our buyer that took us from operating a mushroom farm serving maybe a 20-mile radius to one letting people across the country grow their own gourmet food. It was that one question to our community, but what can we do better with our own waste that led us to kind of start rethinking our whole company and realizing we could close our own loop and offer our byproduct back to the community as well. And I think the one lesson that we've really learned from our entire experience thus far is that none of us have all the answers, not even close. But we all have a ton of questions running through our heads. And as long as we continue to ask those questions every single day, we're confident that together we can all continue to make this world a better place.
See, and I know every single person in this audience today, right now, is constant questions going through your head. And all we're really saying is pay attention to those questions, and especially those that seem impossible. And we want to end this short story today with a quote from Robert Kennedy. He said that there are those who look at things the way they are and ask, why? I dream of things that never were and ask, why not? Thank you.